Welcome to the XMC Automations and Workflows presentation, coming to you from Demo Channel 4. My name is Steve Doe. I'm in the Technical Marketing Engineering Group, and I'm coming to you today from Extreme Salem, New Hampshire office. And today, as you see the presentation materials that we're giving you in the demonstration, if at any time you have any questions, go ahead and enter those questions into the live chat, and we'll answer them there during the live session. If by chance we don't get to them during the live session, we'll answer those later out on the hub. I'd also like to introduce Ken Jones today. He's going to be the moderator for this particular live session, and he'll be handling all the questions that come in on the live chat. So let's go ahead and start with a quick introduction of XMC workflows. Workflows is really a graphical automation environment, and it was designed to replace the legacy or the traditional Python or shell script. And in the past, a network or an IT administrator, they might have had a need to create a task to perhaps maybe add a CLI feature to a collection of switches, or maybe automate taking firmware images and automate transferring those to a TFTP server. Those kinds of straightforward tasks, and they might have done that with with a script. Well, workflows can do those kinds of straightforward things as well, but it can also do so much more. Because workflows is this graphical automation environment, you can take an existing IT task, break it down into individual steps, and then take those individual steps and one by one map those to what's referred to in workflows as an activity. Once you've mapped those to activities, what you can do within workflows is graphically link those activities together to form a more complex automation tool, a tool that would be suitable for automating a manual or time-consuming IT task. And so really, what are these activities within workflows? Well, those activities could be Python scripts, shell commands, HTTP requests, mail alerts, or switch CLI commands. Basically, all the raw components, the raw tools you need to build out any network automation project. So rather than continuing with the definition of workflows, let's go ahead and demonstrate workflows. So what I'm going to do now is start up a short video recording that is going to show us 3 different workflows in operation. It'll give you a better idea of what workflows bring to the table. As we pointed out in the introductory slides, workflows within the Extreme Management Center, also called XMC for short, provide a fantastic environment to build network automation tools to replace some of the manual tasks that take up so much of a network administrator's time. At present, we are looking at the workflows development environment, where Python scripts, CLI commands, HTTP requests, and email activities can be dragged from the palette onto the workflow canvas. These little pieces of microcode can then be linked together to form complex network automation tools. For example, in our demonstration lab, we have a collection of customer-inspired workflows that solve a wide variety of problems. This particular workflow audits a campus fabric network, ensuring that both sides of all SMLT configurations have matching ISIDs configured. A workflow such as this saves the network administrator from performing the mundane task of manually examining switch configurations. Another example is the Open ServiceNow ticket workflow. This workflow can be linked to a specific XMC alarm, such as a high CPU event on a switch, and then automatically create a cloud-based ServiceNow ticket for the detected problem. Again, this type of workflow can save the network administrator time by automating tasks that were previously performed manually. However, Today we're going to demonstrate the troubleshoot offline AP workflow. In short, this workflow is automatically launched by an XMC alarm that is triggered by an SNMP trap sent from a wireless controller when an access point unexpectedly goes offline. Once the workflow is running, it parses the SNMP trap from the wireless controller and extracts the MAC address of the offline AP. Following the path for an offline AP, the workflow next performs the Search End Systems Table activity. This activity examines the XMC End Systems table and locates the switch and Ethernet port where the offline AP is connected. Next, the workflow examines the XMC topology map to determine if the local switch is offline, as that could be the true culprit of why the AP is down. In a similar fashion, the workflow then verifies that the AP's local router is also online, and if all other potential problems are ruled out, the workflow attempts to remediate the offline AP by dropping power on the local switch port where it is connected and forcing an AP reboot. Lastly, the workflow sends a detailed report via email to the network administrator, alerting to the offline AP's condition, the status of the local switch and routers, and the remediation steps that were taken. And now to show this workflow in operation. The first step is to force an operational AP offline to kickstart the demonstration. We will simply execute this pre-built task that disables a port where a currently operational Wing AP is connected. After a few seconds, the wireless controller detects the offline AP and sends a trap to XMC, which triggers the alarm and launches the workflow. After refreshing the screen, the troubleshoot offline AP alarm has triggered based on the SNMP trap from the Corp-Wing 1 controller. The workflow's dashboard is the network administrator's view into all workflow operations, no matter if they were launched manually, scheduled, or triggered by an alarm. Note that the troubleshoot offline AP workflow just completed and the results can be examined by drilling into it. Note how the path the workflow took can be easily followed by looking at the color of the workflow activities. Green are successful activities, gray were unnecessary pathways, and activities in red point to an error or failure. By drilling into a particular activity, you can see the runtime results. For example, looking at the results of the Search End Systems table activity displays the results of the underlying query. In this case, it points to the IP address and port of the local switch where the AP is connected. Lastly, note that the troubleshoot offline AP workflow sends an email to the network administrator. By examining the email sent by the workflow engine, we can see all of the troubleshooting results and any remediation steps that were taken. In this case, we can see the AP was automatically rebooted, and shortly thereafter, the AP was again adopted to its wireless controller. This concludes the Extreme Management Center workflows demonstration. Alrighty, are you there, Ken?
I am, Steve. How are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. Have any questions come in on any of the demonstration items so far?
Absolutely, Steve. It's been a rather busy afternoon here on Channel 4. So first and foremost, the first question I have for you that came in was someone asked about, because the workflow that you showed is rather complex. Could you go over how to build a simple workflow, something that performs like a simple task, like shutting something down at a certain time of day or night every day?
Sure. Let's so right now in the workflow dashboards, we have to go back to the development environment. And what we can do is I'll go into the folder called under development, and I'm just going to create a new workflow. And what we'll do is we'll create a maybe a basic workflow. We'll do one of the easiest things we can do. We will issue a CLI command maybe against a switch. I can think of a test switch right now. And we'll just do, we'll disable a port. So create a workflow. So we'll go to a workflow name. So I'll be very creative and call it shutdown port. And I'll hit OK. And you'll see within the workflow canvas now, we have a start point and an end point. So as we were showing during the demonstration, these are our activities over here. So the one I'm going to be pulling out, I'll drag out the CLI activity. What this allows us to do is issue commands directly to a switch. And as I drag that out, I will give it a name. And once you select it, and you'll notice over here, let me widen this a little bit, you have your inputs. And so I got my activity selected. It's a CLI activity, and I got inputs. So this is where I can directly put a command in. And the switch I'm thinking of, this test switch, has it's an XOS switch. It's a 440, I believe, and it has all of its upper ports are unused right now. So this command won't cause any problems on the network. And I think the command is disable ports, and we'll choose port 13. This will be the simplest workflow ever. And I'll just hit save here. And let's just double check that saved correctly. So now we have to complete the workflow. We've got our one activity out there. And the way you do that is you drag, you connect the start to the activity, and then also to the end. And now we've completed that workflow. We can go ahead and hit save again. And to verify we have a valid workflow, I can verify it. And it says workflow is valid, so we're good to go. So now at this point, we can right from here, we can run the task. And what it's going to prompt us to do is to go ahead and associate to a particular device. So I'm going to go find that test switch that I was talking about. I think it's under P's. There it is. This is a 440 XOS switch. I'm going to move that over to the right. And now we've associated that particular switch to this workflow. And after I hit the next button, I can do a couple of things. I can save this workflow as a task associated to that switch, which will then allow us to run it later as a task, or I could directly run it now. So I'll go ahead and run it now. And I'll say yes. And what that does is immediately takes us into the runtime environment. And you can see that that workflow has gone ahead and ran, and it's green, so we know that it finished. And I have that selected, so I can go up, just like in the demonstration video, I can show you the output. And as you can see, we logged into that particular switch and disabled port 13, just like that. So that's how the whole process for building that particular workflow goes. And the interesting thing, I was going to say,
so Steve, if you basically, instead of running it, if you were to just save it as a task, then you could just schedule it to go off at a certain time every day or something like that, right?
That's absolutely correct. So here within Save Tasks, if we, instead of running it, we saved it, then we could have come over here, hit Schedule Tasks. I can hit the Add button here just to show you really quick. I can come down and say Workflow Task. I could have chosen that workflow. I could say run this every day at 5 p.m. or something like that. And that would have accomplished it. So now you've launched it, one of the 3 ways you can launch a workflow, which is scheduling, manual, or via an alarm. So that takes, I think we handled that particular question.
Okay, next down the line.
Another one? Okay.
Absolutely. What license level is required for workflows? I don't think we covered that as of yet.
No, we didn't. So let's see. You have 2 options. You got the perpetual or the subscription. So for the perpetual, you need the XMC Advanced license, and for subscription, I believe you need the per device license. I think that answers that.
Sure. Now something a little more complex. This user said, I've heard about the XMC's northbound interface API. Can workflows perform an NBI query and process the results? So do we have like a ability to work within the NBI stream process along with workflows?
All right, so I think the best way to show that one is with an existing workflow. So we actually do have a few of them here. Northbound interface, or the NBI API, is extremely powerful, and it is utilized very heavily within workflows. So we'll take a look at, here's a workflow here called report on current users. And this is a fairly straightforward, very simple workflow that is designed to ask XMC via the northbound interface for all the users that were that logged into the network on a given on today, the actual day. So in order to do that, what we'll do is we'll take a peek first at this activity called NBI query end systems. And we'll always go over to inputs, and we can edit it. We can see that this is a Python script. So I'll just kind of widen this out so we can take a peek at it. And what you'll see here is that in this Python script, we're building up this NBI query. And this is how we talk to the northbound interface. And you can see here that we're asking XMC to go look inside of access control and pull out all the end systems by the MAC address. And then take that whole list of MAC addresses and step through them one by one and issue another API query that returns all of the fields that we know about each and every one of those MAC addresses. And that information is combined into a CSV file and emailed to the administrator. But the interesting part is what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little extra time, and I'm going to copy out this particular NBI query here, the one that pulls out all the MAC addresses. And I'm going to show you a tool that we use to build up these queries before we even enter into the workflow environment, just to prove out our queries and get the right information. So I'm going to go to administration with an XMC. Let's see, there's server utilities, and the NBI Explorer. So this is the Northbound Interface Explorer. And what this is just a web environment that you can plug in those queries. And I'm going to actually put that query in, and you can prettify it. That's always nice to do. And then you can hit the play button, and it will actually launch that query against your XMC. And as you can see, it returned all the MAC addresses of all the systems that it's seen. And the other useful part about this is over here on the right, you've got this documentation explorer, and you can see the entire schema. You can break it down and understand everything that you can query within XMC through this northbound interface. And you can tell access control, this is the portion that we were just in right here for this particular query. So I'll go back to XMC. Are there any other questions?
Absolutely. So are workflows able to interact with third-party devices? I mean, right now you're showing it, we're interacting with XMC itself, pulling out MPI, but do we work with third-party devices as well?
So staying with showing it here as a live workflow, I believe during the demonstration we showed one that was the Open ServiceNow ticket. Let's see. What was that question again, Ken? I want to make sure I get the right workflow.
Just wanted to make sure that our workflow is able to interact with third-party devices.
Okay. Yeah. So that one definitely would be this workflow here. So we did show this one during the demonstration. This is the Open ServiceNow ticket. And what this workflow does is it talks to, in this particular case, it talks to the cloud-based ticketing service, ServiceNow. And what it does is it opens a ticket there. So the way this workflow was intended is, if something is detected by XMC, an alarm is triggered, which launches this workflow. Just to show you how this workflow makes use of a third-party API, what I'll do is I'll open up this Open ServiceNow incident activity, click on inputs again, edit the script, and you can see here that we're building out all the variables within the Python script, everything you need that we can extract from the event in order to open up that incident. And then down here, we're building out the URL and basically the API command that we're going to feed at the ServiceNow API. And the way we send that is we actually use the Python's requests module, which is a native Python library. And down here, you can see we actually are posting that command that we built up, the API command, and we're posting it directly to ServiceNow to open up that incident. And then we later process the results back from ServiceNow, but that's how that particular workflow works. And it's very common to need to talk to a third-party API. That is a common thing, and as long as it's web-based and you can get at it from the request module or some other technique, there's a lot of flexibility, and that is a great thing to do. So hopefully that answered that question.
Absolutely. Might as well take a drink of water. There's a question here. I think I'll answer it myself. Somebody asked if workflows, what license was leveled for, was required for scripting. And you understand that basically you need an advanced license in order to do workflows. Scripting, on the other hand, is that capability comes with every license. Scripting in the context of workflows, then obviously you would need the license for workflows, which is an advanced license. So that pretty much covers that, just to know the difference between scripting and workflows itself. The next question that came up was kind of related to the last question. It's basically, can XMC workflows make use of external or third-party APIs?
I think that was the one we already asked, Ken. Are you sure? I think you asked that one.
You said interact with third-party devices. I think basically, are you getting anything back from the ServiceNow thing that was made a third-party API?
If they were asking about third-party devices, that'd be a little different than the API. So if it's third-party devices they're talking about, that is certainly, at least I'm going to go down that path anyways. XMC, as long as it's managing a particular third-party device, then you can absolutely build a workflow to operate against that third-party device, much like you might use a workflow to use a third-party API. I'm trying to think of, I think we have one example. Let me see.
Well, I guess, yeah, now I understand. I see. Basically, so from third-party devices, like, can you run a workflow against like a Cisco switch, or does it have to be an Exos switch or something like that, right?
Yeah, so I have one. Yeah, I think that is probably what the question is getting at. So what I'm going to do is, we do have one here. This is an interesting workflow. This one is used in it's used in conjunction with our extreme compliance. So extreme compliance, basically, it's archiving switches configuration, and then it's running audits on those configurations and pulling out different things about the configuration. One of the checks is looking for, I think this script is checking to see if the NTP server is enabled. And if the NTP server is not enabled, then it sends an event, and that event could be picked up by XMC through an alarm, and it'll go ahead and launch this workflow. And this workflow goes into that Cisco switch, and it then finds that particular switch and enables NTP back to its state that it should be in. Let me see. I think right here, prepare a Cisco switch for remediation. If I edit that, let's see if we can take a quick peek here. Yeah, here we go. So in this particular one, we're building up a set of commands to go back into that Cisco switch. And you can see we're doing the enable command on the switch. We're entering configuration mode. We're turning on the NTP server functionality, and then we're doing a write mem to save that config. And let's see, and if we follow the path down, we end up down here at the perform Cisco switch remediation. And this would work the same way, if I remember correctly. This would work the same way if it was a VSP switch or an XOS switch. We just basically, we're going to loop through those commands that we just built. And you can see right here, we're basically sending that, we're doing the CLI send of that command directly to the switch. So absolutely, this in this particular case is working against a Cisco switch, but it could just easily been any extreme switch as well. So absolutely, if it's a third-party switch managed by XMC, we can do workflow activities against it.
Okay, cool. So we're getting around down to about, I don't know, roughly about 3 minutes left. So I'm going to give you like a quick one. There's a lot of questions left, but give you a quick one and then basically close it up before they pull the pin on you.
Okay.
Is there a repository where, you know, new users to this technology can go and get examples and, you know, learn more about it?
Yeah, let me see if I can. I'll make a little room here, open a new tab. So Extreme Networks has a GitHub site, and I'll just go to it real quick. If I can type it right. Let's see, was I successful? I was. And this GitHub site, so github.com/extreme networks, if you go here, you can break down into the extreme scripting. And within that folder, you will find a bunch of scripts, some traditional scripts, as well as a bunch of workflows that you can download. And once you download them, just as a side thing, they show up as little files, and you can just right click and you can say import, and you'll be able to import those workflows directly into your XMC environment. So that's absolutely an activity you can do there.
So I'm guessing basically you can just pull in any workflow you want, peruse that thing, and then just kind of change things around to alter it to do what you want it to do.
Yeah, and some of our customers have also built workflows and shared them back to the GitHub, and that works, and that goes the opposite way. You can very easily right-click on one and export that particular workflow as well. So that's an excellent site to go to for both borrowing new workflows that you want to learn from or utilize within your network, or sharing ones that you've already created.
Alrighty then. We're at 1:58, so you might want to go to the final slide and give everybody the exit.
Alrighty. Let's see. Well, thanks again for joining us for today's workflows and automation.